With me in studio today is Lucy O'Brien. She is the author of Madonna, Like an Icon, and it is a biography, of course, of Madonna. Welcome to the studio. Now, the first question I have to ask you is, she's the most written about woman on the planet. How do you begin to write about the most written about woman?
Well, I felt, even though a lot's been written about her, there's whole areas that have been glossed over or ignored, and I felt that no one had really got to the heart of her, firstly as a woman and also as an artist. So I went and I come at it as a music writer, and I've written books about Annie Lennox and Dusty Springfield and a history of women in rock. So I really wanted to get the sense of what was she like in the recording studio, what's she like backstage, how does she get those shows together, those albums, and what's she like as a friend and as a person and as a mother.
What was the most striking thing that you've discovered, do you think?
Well, two things really. I mean, the first thing was in professional terms. I mean, there's been a lot of criticism in the past about her voice or how talented she is, and that was something I really wanted to nail down. And I talked to a lot of musicians and producers and dancers, and so many of them said that actually she's a really, really strong musical arranger. She's a great lyricist. She's brilliant at melodies. She really does produce and co-produce her albums. And I found that really interesting because I thought that it was more her collaborators, and it is actually her.
Did you find that she was domineering? I mean, that's one of the images that we get across, that she's a very kind of dictatorial person in her setup. What about that?
She definitely has to be the boss, and she is in control in her work sphere. It's very important for her to be in control, but she manages to do it in such a way that there were very few people who said, oh God, I absolutely hated it, she was a harridan. They said that she works you really hard, but at the same time you have a real laugh as well.
They were petrified of her, basically.
Yeah, they felt they had to raise their bar, that's true.
Now, did you get a chance to meet her while you were writing the book?
I haven't. I was at a party with her in the late 80s, which is going back now, and she was very small, little baseball cap, quite not hugely charismatic, funnily enough. It's something I feel Madonna is something she can turn on and turn off. For the book, I had a great meeting with her sort of right-hand woman, Liz Rosenberg, in New York, and I think they liked the angle that I was taking, sort of focusing on her more seriously as an artist.
I mean, you decided to go it alone with writing this book, and it took you a long time to write this, didn't it?
Yes, I mean, it was the best part of 2.5 years, working on it as much as I could full-time with 2 small children, but I did manage to get over to the States and go to Detroit and go to New York and do research in LA as well, and it was I found it a bit of a personal journey for me too. I was kind of retracing the steps that she took at various points and talked to people along the way.
I mean, this isn't your first biography. You've written about other rock stars. I mean, and actually your music background is probably relevant to all of that. Tell us about that.
Yes, well, I always felt strongly that women in rock music had been overlooked or didn't have the kind of recognition that they deserved. And Madonna was someone that I felt had always been underestimated and kind of classed as a bimbo for so long. And I felt it was time to look at her. I mean, even though she has had much more credibility recently, I think people still have sort of glossed over the music side and the performance.
I mean, you saw some unseen pictures as well. I mean,
yes,
it's worth a note that actually there are images, a lot of images in here of her.
Some early pictures of her in New York. One wonderful picture of her looking a bit like a rockabilly with an Elvis-type quiff. I mean, fascinating. Pictures that sort of really summed up the atmosphere of that downtown scene.
Yeah. I mean, she's the ultimate chameleon. I mean, I guess the thing that springs to my mind is, she's gone from, I don't know, sassy little New Yorker type from Lucky Star to Lady of the Manor.
Yes.
British lady, very English Lady of the Manor.
Yeah.
Do you think Madonna knows who she is?
I think at times she has had maybe a few identity crises, but she's very creative with those crises. What I love is that we all go through certain phases, but what she does when she goes through that
we all go through bad hair days, but not all of us are sort of published all over the earth,
Well, she'll make an album about it, and she'll write songs about it, and then it's like there's a character for that, and she'll totally amplify that character and be really creative with it.
So is it for you that she is a consummate entertainer, a consummate performer, the perfect comedian? What is it about her that you think is most striking?
Most striking for me is, I think, her as a consummate performer, but also as a great figure of empowerment for women, actually. There were times when I wasn't sure about that, but on balance I think her message has been so strong for women about not doing things confidently and not being afraid to do them, and not being frightened about getting people's approval first. And I think that's been a great message.